Well, they had most part of the president's broadcast earlier today, so we'll just start off on that. And excuse me. Now we're joined by Bose Arogundade, who is a public affairs analyst. Thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's interesting. Yes, so many comments about our independence year on year. Given this one, yes, we're standing, but would you say we're standing still or moving forward?
We're wobbling. We're standing, but we're wobbling. We're wobbling because, like the president said, nice speech. But if we take all of the other factors put together, electricity, security, and all of that, and then it goes down to how it affects the majority of Nigerians, then we would really say we're not standing.
But he's talked about the fact that there are lots of improvements in the power sector. He says feedback from Nigerians also corroborates that. Well, preferred destination of investment, the GDP grown by some percentage, and he sees those statistics as measures of growth.
They are measures of growth, but it depends on how it translates into the majority of Nigerians. Until Nigerians begin to feel the effect of whatever policy is put in place, then we are not reaching out. That is the truth. Because you and I know that if I may not know how much the common man is suffering or how much it affects him when my generator goes on and off as NEPA comes on and off. There was a season when, he started with the power reforms. Everybody attested to the fact that there was light always. But if you notice that in the last 1 month, light has almost gone back to the old way of fluctuating. Sometimes you don't even have power for 2-3 days. That doesn't portend for something that is working, as far as I'm concerned.
But anyway, I think he mentioned something that I'm quite sure maybe you might be interested in. He talked about youth and women coming into the scheme of things in his own, they have a program called UWin, and we've seen so many beneficiaries a couple of times on live television come to attest to what they have been able to benefit from such programs. So would you say that's enough, or we need more of such programs for the women and youth?
The UWin program is quite commendable. It's reaching forth to people, but to what fraction of the people? That's where I have a problem with government. Yes, the display, whatever UWin is doing, MDGS is doing, and people can see. But what is a fraction, even within Lagos State, of the people is this reaching to? Is it reaching to myself here? Or is it reaching to the common man, to my driver, to my cook? To even the very average Nigerian, can they benefit from this program? Is it an open door system where you just go, based on merit, you get it? That's what we're saying. Would I just walk in and I'll be a beneficiary? What are the procedures to being a beneficiary of whatever system or whatever project or whatever programs are put on ground?
In fairness, I think I've heard the president say, well, it's not about who you know, the man-no-man kind of attitude we have here in Nigeria. Specifically on the UWin project, he did talk about a series of entries from people, and at the end of the day, they had people who had to vet all of these entries to know those who will be qualified to get this grant and help them out with what they would want to do in future.
Then generally people should be aware of how to benefit from this system. Do we have a literate populace? Do we have people who are aware? Do we have people who are turning on to channels now to watch this program? Do we have people who have been able to listen to the president's speech this morning? That's what we're saying.
Let's assume without considering, do you think that a host of people would have been able to connect with the president's speech this morning? I mean, in terms of the manner of the address, the way it was couched, the words in it, do you think a host of people would have been able to relate with it?
Yes, of course, if it reached forth to the people.
Did it reach forth to you?
It did reach forth to me, except that I have a soft spot for the needy and for the average Nigerian who does not have the privilege to benefit from all of this. That's
How did he reach out to you?
yes, he wants to put on his own pass card, more or less. Yes, we can say the president is trying, putting up all the power reforms, looking again into corruption, reducing the level of corruption. At least we don't hear so much of, massive embezzlements nowadays. The EFCC, of course, is quite effective. And even the power sector, yes. But what I'm saying is that despite the fact that the power sector, there's some level of improvement, but it's not enough because it's not translating into even, let's say, the 50% population of Nigerians. And whatever is not reaching forth to even half of the population is not reaching forth well.
You see some tweets coming through, and some of them, as a matter of fact, say, well, yeah, given the challenges we're faced, and this particular one says there's no way that we could expect maybe an automatic advancement getting to where we are, but there must be some measure of progress which we should identify. You share the same view?
There is some measure of progress that we should identify with. But I still remain on the spot.
What do you expect? Let me even ask you. At this stage, what do you expect from?
What I expect is, there's not going to be a magical change in the system, but there must be a progressive change that does not remain within just a few people. It must begin to translate into at least a fraction of maybe even 40%. Then we know that progressively we are getting there. But if what we're talking about is 5% of 100 who are getting benefits from all of these reforms we're talking about, then of course I don't think it's, there needs to be a lot more done by the president and his group.
Okay, well, so many other yardsticks which he did outline there, because look at this one, for instance. He talks about the performance contract, which he says it's all in a bid for him to improve service delivery to the country. As much as it may have been criticized, but he says they're doing all these things, and he knows that by the next address, he knows that most of these reforms that he's put in place would have concretized. And so now, yes, maybe we can understand why we're facing what we're facing.
Time will tell if Jonathan is the hero of Nigeria, and if he's going to be like the past heroes that he's talking about. Today we can talk about Obafemi Awolowo, we can relate to what he did, we can relate to Nnamdi Azikiwe, we can relate to Tafawa Balewa. Is Jonathan going to end up as one of them?
But I also remember while they were alive, people actually, never gave them any kind of kudos or thanks. It was after the demise that we got to see that Nigerians call them heroes past.
Typical Nigerian. We always give glory to the dead. Yes? But the effect, you see,
but don't you think, sorry to butt in here, but don't you think if we give them praise where they deserve such, and maybe criticize them where necessary, it will spur them to do more things for us when they're still alive, instead of waiting for people to go before putting all of that.
No doubt about it. If we look at the electioneering process, there's been great reforms. Look at the election in Edo State, for instance. I mean, that was quite impressive. I think it's also a follow-up, and we can see the fraternity of Adams Oshomole even with the president as of today. And
that's unprecedented, even though they are of different parties.
Okay, so that I give him kudos for.
So you would actually agree with, because that was actually embedded in his speech. He talked about cleaning up the electoral process. You would agree with him on that particular score.
I'm quite impressed about that. I was quite impressed about the elections in Edo State, and the way he moved in with the men, despite the fact that he was in an opposition party, and there was a lot of pressure from his own party, within the state. He still stood on the side of change, especially in the electioneering process in Nigeria. That in itself portends a positive turnaround in our democracy for today. Because that means that tomorrow we may have leaders who really merit their call and the office.